Reminiscence, written and directed by Lisa Joy, starring Hugh Jackman, is coming out this week on HBO Max and in theaters. I got to see an early screening, and I wanted to give you an early review of the film to let you know what I thought about it. You know, I first heard about this movie when I saw the trailer, and I instantly thought it was going to be a Nolan film. And then I look into it, and it turns out that Lisa Joy, the writer-director, this is her feature debut, and she's actually Jonathan Nolan's wife. Jonathan Nolan is the co-writer of Memento, the Dark Knight trilogy, and the brother of Christopher Nolan. So you kind of know what you're going to be in for when it comes to this movie just right off the hop. And I will tell you, if you like the kind of suspense thrillers that are kind of this warped reality type of story that the Nolans have given us since Memento, you might really, really enjoy this film. This movie is right up your alley. This movie, if I were to describe it, it would be like a hybrid of Christopher Nolan's Inception from 2010 and Alex Proyas's film Dark City. I don't know how many of y'all have seen Dark City before. It came out about a year before The Matrix. There's lots of parallels between The Matrix and Dark City. And those parallels and that type of storytelling continues into this film. But because this movie has Hugh Jackman in it, I couldn't help but think about The Prestige as well. Like, it's that kind of, kind of film noir type of dark, enveloping story that this film pretty much follows suit. The movie takes place in a fictional world where scientists have discovered a way to actually probe the mind. It's sort of like what I would call a technological hypnosis, where if you want to revisit the past and revisit events in your life, whether it be happy moments or moments with lost loved ones or trying to find something from your past or even solve a murder, there is technology where they submerge you in water and can read your brain patterns and sort of hypnotize you into remembering things. And whatever you're thinking about or dreaming about in the past that's deeply rooted in your brain will actually appear within this sort of viewing sphere machine. And because of that, the outside world can see your past and help you do simple things like finding your lost pet, or for some people, reminiscing on happier days and vacations. Just that premise alone really gets you thinking, because when you really examine life, like if you're listening to this right now and you've ever lost a loved one or you've had a breakup and you just look back and think about the past and want to revisit those happy times, or even stuff like when you were a kid, like just revisiting that, this machine allows you to do that. And it's hyper realistic to where it's like you're back there. It's not even a memory anymore. You're basically amplifying your memory to sort of take over your consciousness. It's really kind of, in a way, emotional, especially for me, because I've had a lot of loss in my life, a lot of memories from the past that I miss, and moments that I loved in my life that I would love to revisit. I mean, we all do. So if you've ever experienced any sort of loss, or if you're somebody who oftentimes has had issues getting over things or moving on from the past, this movie's premise will resonate with you. Now, Hugh Jackman plays Nick Bannister. He is one of these hypnotists who controls the machine and can activate the machine to get into people's brains to figure stuff out. And the movie follows Nick Bannister's journey to find this mysterious redheaded woman that appears to him asking to find her keys. And it becomes almost an obsession because there's something eerily familiar about her. And we go along this crazy journey where he has to invade other people's minds, including even his own, to try to figure out just what the hell is going on. The movie really is one of those kinds of movies in a good way. This movie will keep you on your toes. It's very much like Inception, to where when you're watching it, you're not really sure if it's a dream or if it's reality, or if he's probing the past or if he's not. Because there's tons of times in the film where it twists, and it twists again, and it twists again. So you're not really sure. It keeps you on your toes. It really does. And as you follow along with this quest, it's going to lead to a very surprisingly amazing third act that I think kind of saved the movie. Because even though I did like this movie, in fact, I liked it quite a bit, because we need more movies like this. We haven't had too many movies like this, and I love these kinds of films. But what I was going to say was my main criticism would be that it does drag. It's not that the movie's necessarily boring, but there are some parts that I think could have been shaven out. There are things that could have been cut that would have sped up the pacing, and it does kind of drag. It's about 2 hours long, and it feels like a 3 hour movie, and that's not a good thing. The middle of the movie just goes on forever. There's an action sequence and a gunfight that I think is pretty fun, but if it wasn't for that gunfight, boy oh boy, you would be sitting there just waiting for something to happen. Like you kind of know where the story's going, or you at least, even if you don't know, you want to know where it's going. You're invested. You're trying to figure out what's going on, solve the puzzle alongside Nick Bannister, alongside Hugh Jackman, and kind of play along with the mystery. But along the way, you're like, okay, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point. And that is one of the flaws of the film. But it's a minor flaw because the movie's still very watchable. And I think Lisa Joy's goal here is to make one of those movies that you have to watch twice. You know what I mean? To really appreciate it, because when you go back and watch it a second time, which I have not done yet as of this review, you'll pick up on little Easter eggs and clues that were planted along the way for you that end up being resolved at the end of the movie. So I do love movies that do that. Memento is one of my top 3 favorite films of all time. And to me, it's still Nolan's best film. Yes, even more than The Dark Knight. I love it even more than The Dark Knight. But this movie tries to follow along with the same kind of idea. It's just kind of, it doesn't really keep your interest scene by scene. Even though the overarching story is interesting, scene by scene, there are parts that could have been cut down and not fleshed out as much as they were. You know, I felt it was too long for the story they were trying to tell. Now, again, not a bad movie at all. I did like how it felt like a Nolan film, not just with the editing, but also with the cinematography and the music. Ramin Djawadi does the soundtrack. I hope I didn't butcher his name. And the soundtrack is really minimalistic. There's not a lot of music like overbearing the film, but it's used in parts that's supposed to convey like thought, emotion, and really, curiosity. The film has a genuine sense of curiosity. And if you like movies that are like mysteries, like I mentioned, Nolan films and Outer Limits episodes and things of that nature, Twilight Zone stuff, it's not really horror. It's more suspense thriller. There's not any ghosts or goblins or aliens. It's just technology and it's a mystery. You'll love this movie. I mean, you'll love it. Again, there are better movies than this one that do what it's trying to do. Inception, I think, keeps you entertained more than this one does. And they're very similar films. I'm telling you now, you're going to see people comparing this to Inception all freaking week. It's going to happen because it is like Inception. But that movie, I think, although it's longer, did a better job of keeping you interested. Whereas this movie, it could have been fixed with editing. There's ways they could have edited around this, shrunk down some dialogue, and made it an hour and a half movie, and it would have been just as good, if not better. That's my thoughts on Reminiscence. Again, Hugh Jackman is great. Let me know when you see this film. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. And I'm curious to see what other folks think about this film, because the people who I went to go see it with kind of felt the same way. Great idea, great premise. Bit too long, but still good. With that being said, I'm out. Talk to you soon.